day 2 of JLTV's exclusive coverage of the 19th Maccabiah Games, direct from the State of Israel. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's spectacular opening ceremonies of these Maccabiah Games. I'm Mitch Gaylord, coming to you from the JLTV Maccabiah headquarters. On today's edition, we get a sneak peek into how the chair of the United States delegation handicaps the games for the American athletes. Then, we meet one of those American athletes, Dave Blackburn, a Maccabiah legend who refused to let a life-threatening injury from a devastating car accident hold him down. Then, we travel to the Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Memorial Museum, for a moving tribute. That and so much more. So sit back, relax, as America's chosen network takes you inside the 19th Maccabiah Games.
Welcome to Kfar Maccabiah. We call it Maccabiah Village in Ramat Gan. My name is Brad Pomerance. We are here with Jeff Bukantz. He is the chair of the U.S. delegation, but he and his family has a deep history in the Maccabiah movement. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Brad. Great to be here.
Before we talk about Team USA, I want to talk to you about you and your father, both longtime Maccabeans. Let's start with Daniel, an amazing history in fencing. You're both fencers. Tell us about your dad.
My late father, Dan, competed in 4 Olympic Games, 1948 through 60. He then refereed in 5 more from 1964 through 1984, except for the Moscow boycott. Right. And he was a 4-time national champion. But as far as Maccabiah, he competed in the 3rd Games in 1950, the first after the Holocaust. And he won the gold medal in individual foil. So I always had a goal that I wanted to follow in my father's footsteps. I didn't know if I was going to win the national championship. I didn't know if I was going to make 1 Olympic team, let alone 4. But I sort of set my sights on trying to make the Maccabiah team and trying to win that gold medal.
And it's interesting, you wrote a book about you and your father. It's very touching. It's called Closing the Distance, Chasing a Father's Olympic Fencing Legacy. I was touched by it, and I know anyone else who reads it will be touched as well. Let's talk about you, though, because you clearly are so committed to the Maccabiah movement. You participated yourself in 4, 81, 85, 89, and 93. Did you follow in Dad's footsteps?
It wasn't easy because in 1981 I took 4th place, which was the worst place an athlete could finish.
You'd rather get 5th.
And I cried like a baby when I lost that medal. And in 1985 I took 3rd place, and I probably cried again. And in 1989 I was actually 2nd ranked in the United States in men's foil, and I qualified for the World Championship team. But my philosophy was I probably wasn't going to win any medals in Denver at the World Championships. Let me go one more time to Israel and try to win that medal. And this time I finally won that medal. It meant so much to me that I was able to finally, fill that one big footstep. And again, I cried like a baby because I'm a big crybaby.
I can imagine. Now, in 1997, your Maccabiah community honored you with an award at a Maccabiah Smackdown in New Jersey. And in fact, you were smacked down during that event. Tell me about receiving that award.
Actually, what happened was I was raising money for the Maccabiah fencing team. Raising money is not pleasant, so I wanted to have some fun.
And looks like a test of strength. Oh boy. I don't know about this one.
So I held a professional wrestling fundraiser because I always loved pro wrestling. And I was the Mighty Maccabi, the masked Mighty Maccabi, against the dastardly Iron Sheik, who's somewhat of a cult hero now.
Referee, come on, referee. 1, 2, 3.
And we raised about $30,000. I got to live out my dream, and I had a great time.
It was terrific, and I want to talk to you about the Olympics because you, like your father, deep connection to the Olympic movement. You were the captain of the U.S. fencing team 2004, 2008. How did we do? I don't know.
We did great, not necessarily because of the captain, but the United States hadn't won a lot of medals in fencing. Our last medal had been in 1984, bronze medal. And in 2004, we actually had a gold and a bronze, so we had 2 medals. It was awesome. But in Beijing, for my 2nd and final Olympics, we actually won 6 medals in a span of a week, which was almost the whole total of what we had in the last 100 years. It was amazing.
What was also amazing is watching my friend here as an MSNBC, NBC Olympic analyst in 2012 in London. How was it being on the other side of the camera?
Well, I like to talk, and I know a lot about fencing. The problem for me is I don't have the best filtration system. And at NBC, I had to watch every word that came out of my mouth. That had to be positive, and everything was a positive spin. But it was really awesome. And in fact, after the Maccabiah, I go home and do my laundry, and then I come back to Budapest for the World Fencing Championship again for NBC commentating.
That's true, yes. Jeff, I want to take a to walk with you through Maccabiah Village, go to its headquarters, and let's talk about Team USA and its chances for the 19th Maccabiah Games.
Let's go, Brett.
So welcome back. We're now in front of the headquarters of the Maccabiah World Union. And Jeff, I wanted to talk to you about Team USA. How many athletes do we have?
We have a total delegation of 1,116, our largest ever. At the last games, we had 903.
And how are our chances for medal glory, medal victory?
Our chances are great. We're going to win a lot of medals. But as I tell people, unlike the Olympics, where the success is solely measured by how many medals are brought back to the United States, our success in the Maccabiah team is gauged by how many feet we bring to the ground in Israel.
And I know that many athletes come to Israel before opening, not only to train, but also to tour the country, to enjoy what Israel has to offer historically, culturally, religiously.
The flagship of our portfolio, our program, is called the Israel Connect program. It just finished. We had 6 days of touring, and it finished up with a trip to Yad Vashem. And it really puts things in perspective for these youngsters. And everyone was touched by it, and they had a great time.
So we're tracking a few athletes for Team USA. We have a wrestler, Ofer Bernstein. His brother competed in 2009, his father as well. We have some bowling competitors we're tracking, lots of tennis players, soccer teams. What do you think about any of those sports, if you know at all?
Those sports are all going to do great. The most well-known athlete we have on our team is Garrett Weber-Gale, who won a gold medal at the Beijing Olympics. He was part of that famous relay team where Jason Lezak did the final lap. And pretty amazingly, 2 out of the 4 that won that gold medal were Jewish athletes.
And Jason Lezak, of course, was at the 2009 Maccabiah Games, did very well. Now Garrett is here in 2013. Also, we have to mention Ali Raisman, the gold medalist in 2012 in gymnastics, is here in Israel, not competing, but definitely participating as part of the 19th Maccabiah Games.
Well, Ali touched the hearts of people around the world, Jewish and non-Jewish, with her tremendous performance. And she was brought here by Maccabi World Union, and she'll be addressing our team as well, and everyone's very excited.
I have to ask you about 2 fencers, since that's your sport. Jennifer and Charlie Horowitz, they're both teens. They're competing in the 19th Maccabiah Games. How are their chances?
The fencing team has great chances. The Horowitz kids have definitely great chances. They're both very experienced fencers. They come from a wonderful family, and I hope they're having a great time here.
Okay, I have a piece of trivia for you, and I want to see if you know the answer. The first Maccabiah Games, International Maccabiah Games, 1932, that you know. Israel received its first medal in 1932 in what sport?
Was it fencing?
It was fencing! My name is Brad Pomerance with Jeff Bukantz reporting from Kfar Maccabiah.
When we come back, we meet Dave Blackburn, a Maccabiah legend who looked death in the eye and death blinked. Welcome back. American Dave Blackburn has pitched in 10 international Maccabiah tournaments, taking home countless medals. While a 2010 car accident may have robbed him of his ability to play in the sport he loves, that did not stop Dave from competing in this year's Maccabiah Games. Watch.
Hi, it's Steve Grad at the Pierre Gildesgame Maccabiah Museum. And nobody is shown more around this museum than Dave Blackburn. In fact, this ball right here is from the very first game he pitched in men's fast-pitch softball back in 1985. All he did was strike out 15 and throw a no-hitter. How did you become so proficient as a fast-pitch softball pitcher?
Well, it's kind of in my DNA, Steve. My father was a Hall of Fame fast-pitch pitcher, and I got hooked on it when I was about a 5-year-old, and I saw my dad pitch against the world-famous Eddie Feiner from The King and His Court.
Oh, wow.
So that really, there was 5,000 people in the stands, and I saw my dad in a different light there as a 5-year-old. And I realized that this is what I wanted to do. And so I just started learning how to pitch and got to play in youth leagues when I was in high school. And then came to California to pitch for the world champions in 1982 after graduating college.
And then the Maccabiah Games. How did you get onto the U.S. team there?
Well, the first time the U.S. sent a team to play fast pitch softball in the World Games here in Israel was 1985. So they made an announcement that they were looking for the 14 best Jewish fast pitch softball players in America to take to Israel in 85, and the tryouts were in the fall of 84. So I knew I'd have at least a chance to throw my hat in the ring, and without knowing if there were other really good Jewish pitchers in America. And it just worked out that it was kind of one of those kismet things in life where my life intersected with Maccabi USA through fast pitch softball, and my life got profoundly affected in a positive way.
What was it like taking the mound in your first game at the games here in Israel?
Well, we were nervous because we didn't really know what to expect. We weren't sure if we were going to be playing against guys in Payas and Tzitzi, or if we were going to be playing against guys who really took the game serious and really could play. Turned out we were playing against guys who took the game serious and could really play. Jewish guys play this sport all over the world. And the interesting thing is, in places like Argentina, Mexico, Venezuela, the Jewish community centers there are one big JCC in the big metropolitan city, capital city, and they're all sports complexes like the Kfar here. So imagine if the Kfar had a big softball stadium in it, within its infrastructure. These Latin American countries all have that, and so they play fast pitch. There's no slow pitch internationally, and so they came ready to play, and we knew we had our hands full.
How were the fast pitch games received here in Israel when you first started here at the games?
Well, for the championship game, we drew about 3,000 people.
Whoa.
So that was, people here have, at that time, had no baseball to glam onto. Little League Baseball didn't even start here until a year later in 1986. And so a lot of New Yorkers and people from LA and those who have made Aliyah miss baseball. And it turns out that the kibbutz that we played subsequent Maccabiah tournaments at was made up of Canadians and Americans who all love softball. And so they started playing a pickup game every Sunday, and that turned into what is now the Israeli Softball Association, the National League.
And the impact you fellas had on it had to be indelible. I mean, it was forever when they saw how you other Jewish players from around the world could do it.
Yeah, our team and the Canadian team, which is made up of primarily guys from Toronto, they grew up they don't have Little League Baseball or much Little League Baseball in Canada, but the guys grow up playing fast pitch softball from the time they're 8, just like we grew up in the States playing Little League Baseball. So by the time they get to be 16, 17, 18, there's some phenomenal pitchers and phenomenal players. So we had our hands full when we played the Canadians, and we had monumental, memorable battles between them. But the great thing about the Maccabiah Games is you battle on the field as tough as any kind of normal competition you would find anywhere else. But when the games are over, everybody just feels like one big family. And it's like a mishpacha of softball. And some of my best friends in the world today are guys from other countries, and certainly from USA, who I got a chance to play ball with in these previous 6 World Maccabiah Games.
You know, when you used to pitch, I thought you were pitching for the House of David when you had your beard. What about that beard?
Well, I grew it for the 1989 games. I figured I might as well take on a rabbinical look, have a little better luck here. And so I wore that beard for about 10 years. And wore it in the 89 games, 93 games. And it was kind of like my trademark for a while. You don't see too many pitchers in softball with a big full beard.
You know,
I had it.
You were, I see you didn't pitch with the same arm, but in the world of fast pitch softball, you were the Sandy Koufax of fast pitch softball. Period, done and done. And then in August of 2010, an incredible catastrophe hit you. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, our Maccabi USA team was traveling to play in the over 40 national championships, and it was in Prescott, Arizona. I live in Santa Monica, so me and 2 teammates were driving on a Thursday night up through the mountains, winding up to Prescott in Arizona. We were about 50 miles from Prescott, and a tactical error by the driver of my car that I was a passenger in got us caught in a head-on collision. And it was a bad one because we were in a Toyota Camry and the SUV hit us. And I broke 27 bones, severed my colon, got lumbosacral plexus nerve damage, and I was in a coma for 54 days and spent 10 months in the hospital. And it affected my life tremendously because I lost my ability to walk. I've been in a wheelchair ever since I got out of the hospital after 10 months. And I subsequently lost my right leg. So life changed drastically for me, and I went from 33 years of pitching softball around the world to not even being able to walk across the room. So it was pretty devastating, but with the help of friends and family and my international friends from the Maccabiah, I was able to keep a even keel emotionally, and I didn't let it get me in the dumps. And I knew I'd get a chance to maybe come back here and see my friends again and visit Israel again, and it worked out.
You know, a lesser man, look, most people, let's face it, would have given up hope. To what do you attribute your intestinal fortitude to be able to overcome such an obstacle?
Well, when people ask me that, I got a pretty straight, easy answer for them, and that is that I could have died 100 ways in that car accident. I can easily list 100 different ways where one little teeny thing that was different and I would have died. And I didn't. And miracles of miracles brought me out of there alive. And the fact that I am alive keeps me smiling every day, counting my blessings.
You're an inspiration now. You said you were going to make it back to Israel for the 19th Maccabiah. Here you are, but you were going to come back a different way than you came back now. What was the original way they were having you come back?
Well, they invited me, Maccabi USA invited me to be a VIP, to march in the opening ceremonies, even in my wheelchair, and to throw out the ceremonial first pitch at the softball tournament from my wheelchair. And I'm still doing that, but in addition to that, I was asked by the guy who's running, Stu Greenberg is running the Para-Maccabiah competition and competitors from the U.S. And they had an opening in table tennis. And I played a lot of table tennis in my youth, a little bit in my adulthood, but it's like riding a bike. I was able to get back to playing, and so I'm officially competing in the Para-Maccabiah table tennis tournament. So this will be my 7th Maccabiah as a competitor, and that sets the national record for any athlete in any sport.
It's beyond words to be able to sum this up. I know you have to have the same competitive drive and intensity at table tennis as you did in fast pitch pitching,
Exactly.
fast pitch softball.
I'm not going out there to lose.
Your story is an inspiration for everybody, and not just in the Maccabiah Games, but anybody. And you know, you have to have great pride in that.
Well, I do. I mean, I'm really proud of the fact that I didn't let this put me in the dumps. It didn't make me hide under the covers every day. I'm trying to stay enjoying the things I can still enjoy, learning to enjoy new things that I didn't used to be able to enjoy or didn't know about, and learn to live without those things that I used to really enjoy that I just can't partake in anymore. But like I said, with the help of a lot of strong friends and family, I've been able to keep a stiff upper lip, as they say.
You're an inspiration to all of us, Dave.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
Well, reporting from the Kfar Maccabiah in Ramat Gan, Israel, I'm Steve Grad at the 19th Maccabiah Games for JLTV.
I'm Mitch Gaylord coming to you from the JLTV Maccabiah headquarters. The 19th Maccabiah Games on JLTV is brought to you in part by the Jewish Life Foundation. The Jewish Life Foundation uses the power of the media to educate, inform, and celebrate Jewish history, values, and traditions. If you would like to support the efforts of JLF, you can sign on to www.jewishlifefoundation.org. where you can make a tax-free charitable contribution. On behalf of the Jewish Life Foundation, we sincerely thank you for your support. Welcome back. I'm Mitch Gaylord. Just prior to the commencement of the Games, Yad Vashem, the World Center for Holocaust Research, Documentation, Education, and Commemoration in Israel, held a special reception to honor American philanthropists Marilyn and Barry Rubenstein. JLTV's Susan Neisloss traveled to Yad Vashem for the moving tribute.
Marilyn and Barry Rubenstein didn't lose any loved ones during the Holocaust, but when they heard there were plans here at Yad Vashem to build a synagogue, they decided to step in and make a generous contribution to build the synagogue behind me in honor and in memory of the millions who did perish. Why get involved with building the synagogue? Why is this so special to you and to Marilyn?
Well, you know, the synagogue was almost an afterthought at Yad Vashem. The synagogue was part of the plans, and then they weren't going to do it, and then they came to see us about just making a donation into to build a classroom or something. And Marilyn saw the plans, and there was little dotted lines here, and she said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, if we build a synagogue, that's what it'll be." And our families weren't involved directly in the Holocaust, so for us it was difficult. You know, we weren't building a memorial to a specific person. So this looked like a very good thing to do, more generalized, more for the whole community, and something that we thought you really needed at a place like this. You needed a synagogue. So Marilyn said, "Fine, we'll do the synagogue." And then they got me off the floor, and I got up and I said, "Huh?"
So Marilyn, this is obviously a very lovely gesture, very symbolic as well. Why is this so special for you? Why did you feel so passionate about it?
Well, both of us were fortunate enough to grow up. Well, I lived with my grandparents, and Barry lived next door to his grandparents, and they were Orthodox. And although we're not, their synagogues were basic in their lives. And not only do I think there should be a synagogue in a place like Yad Vashem, how could there not be? But I always think of how proud our grandparents would be to know that we did the synagogue, and it's for them. And of course we did, although we don't have immediate family that perished, everyone they left behind perished.
Now, I'd been reading about the various relics here. They come from, I don't know how many countries, and how meaningful that is that you're represented by so many nations, that this is unique, I would think.
Yeah, the synagogue is set up in a unique way. It's one of the few synagogues in the world that doesn't have any name plaques on it. If you look around, there's no names of anybody in the synagogue. So we want the focus to be, instead of people walking around looking and saying, "Do I know this person? Do I know that person?" There's no names in here. So instead, there's any relics from synagogues anywhere, in the world are sent here, and they're on display in the back of the synagogue, in special display cases.
Give me an idea of some of the most significant things that are here.
Well, first of all, the most significant thing, is the ark here, that this is from one of the synagogues. Where is this one from?
It might be Romania, if I remember correctly.
It looks like it's from Romania, doesn't it? and it's a beautiful thing, and that's here. And then there's similar ark in the back from other countries. It's just amazing when we went through years ago the stories behind some of these, and they change them every so often. So I'm not even sure exactly what's up there right now, but there are Torahs and all kinds of things from different countries. There's the one in the back over there was restored, and that's I think here permanently.
And Marilyn, a question for you. You were wonderful to make this happen, both of you. Back in 2005, I believe it opened. More than 7 years later, what do you want people to come away with, and what is the feeling you want one to get? Because people are here from all over the world.
Actually, it's happening. This has become a very vibrant place. So not only do people come and have either services here, the groups come, or people come here to reflect after the horrors they've seen, but people actually make bar mitzvahs here, and it's become a used synagogue, and how wonderful.
The importance of the synagogue for young people. You were talking about the bar and bat mitzvahs and how they give testimony or share testimony.
Okay, they share. It's important for the children of today to understand a few things. One of them is that Judaism didn't start, with the Declaration of Independence of the State of Israel. But Judaism is a very, very long tradition of more than 2,000 years. And going into the synagogue and understanding that they're part of a very long chain, that's one thing that we want to emphasize. We want to talk about the rich Jewish life that existed in Europe before the war, and the synagogue is actually a memorial for all those thousands of synagogues that were destroyed there.
And wonderful to see that after all that happened, that not only are we still here, we're growing, we're using everything. And it's become it's a vibrant place that's used all the time. And that's what's so wonderful.
Even right now, we're limited in how long we could stay here because there's a bar mitzvah coming in shortly.
People who were perished in the war asked us to remember them. And we, a lot of times, tween a child of today, a child that marks today bar mitzvah, with a child, a boy or a girl that perished there, and they have something in common. Either it's the same birth date or the same last name, or they're from the same area, the families are from the same area. And we take out a page of testimony of this child who perished there, and we create a certificate for the child today, and we hand it over to the child today, like Jonathan takes upon himself the responsibility of remembering Jonathan, who perished there.
Anything else you'd like viewers to know about what this represents for Yad Vashem, giving it a name for the world, for tolerance, and all the things that restore and enhance Jewish faith and spirit?
Well, I just heard about 5 minutes ago that this is now, in terms of museums, the 4th largest visited museum in the world, which is so wonderful. And to have these artifacts here, that so much was able to be salvaged out of what went on, it's a very special place. There are synagogues all over the world, obviously, and they're all wonderful. There's only one Yad Vashem, and now there's one synagogue in Yad Vashem.
Yeah, and especially now, especially today, Yad Vashem to me is also moved out from just becoming a place of memorializing, just specific people, and now with the trials in the United States and all the focus on the Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman on profiling, and profiling is what happened to the Jews. What happened to the Jews happened because they were Jewish, not because anyone did anything, and it's now coming to everybody's forefront in their minds as what and Yad Vashem, I could see why it became the 4th largest place visited, because people are now learning this is the result of what happens when you have profiling and you take one group and do things to them.
Welcome back. With close to 10,000 athletes from virtually every continent on the globe, Maccabeans are bound to come from the countries you'd never expect. How about this one?
India's representation at the Maccabiah Games goes back, well, to Maccabiah Games number 5. And we have medal winners from then. June Gofton. June, what was it like in the 5th Maccabiah in 1957, actually?
Look, it was very exciting. Not at all like it is now. We were put up with families. They didn't have where to put us up. And it was really very, very pleasant. It was special and, for me, very emotional.
To be in Israel.
To be in Israel, to be at the Maccabiah, to represent the country of my birth. It was really very special.
Were there people who were surprised that India had a Jewish delegation?
Yes and no. Some people just expected us, and it was special. We felt very special, and they made us feel special also. It was very good.
Now, you won some medals, which we're going to show. Tell us about your medals.
Okay, well, we won a silver at the team. The main players were England and South Africa. I think South Africa won it, and we came with the silver, and England came third with the bronze. It was very good. We enjoyed it very much, and it was competitive. The tension was there.
And it's quite an honor to be here for the 19th Maccabiah.
Yes, yes, it is. Even though I'm here in Israel now. I've been here for almost 50 years.
Made Aliyah.
Yeah, made Aliyah long, long ago. But I still feel excited when the Indian team comes around.
All right, and now another competitor from Maccabiah number 5, Joyce Hecht. You have a few medals there, Joyce.
Yeah, just a few collected over the years. I played for India in '57, and then for Great Britain in 2 Maccabiah Games, and then for Canada in 3 Maccabiah Games. So the experience was phenomenal. It's a love affair with Maccabiah. It's an addiction to Maccabiah, and we love it.
How did you get so proficient in table tennis?
Accidentally. It started off when I was a junior, and then once I had that experience of winning, I didn't stop. I went on and on and on. I went for world championships representing Canada and China. I was in China when they opened the doors to the West. There was the US team as well. And it's been a wonderful journey.
Now, you collected a very important souvenir at the Maccabiah Games.
The best souvenir was my husband. I met him in '57. He was a wrestler representing Canada, and we're happily married, and I'm very grateful.
Now, there's a real story from Eretz Yisrael in the Maccabiah Games. Reporting from Ramat Gan at Kfar Maccabiah, I'm Steve Grad at the 19th Maccabiah Games for JLTV.
Time for a flashback as we look at one of the most inspiring stories from the 18th Maccabiah Games.
David, how are you feeling? Your son is about to swim in his first final at the Maccabiah Games.
Well, this is very exciting. This is something that's been a work in progress for many years. Jason always had other obligations that could never come to the Maccabiah Games, and this year he put his other obligations aside and took the time to come here and do this with all his Jewish comrades, and so I am very excited about it.
Let's talk about that, because Jason did pass up the World Championships in Rome. What do you think about that decision, that he chose the Maccabiah over the Worlds in Rome?
Well, Jason's been in a number of World Championship events, at least 3 or 4 that I can remember, and has never done the Maccabiah Games, and I think he just felt that at this stage in his life, he's 33 now, that this would be a good time to come here and do this and get a little more of his religious experience, so to speak, his Jewish heritage.
So how do you feel as the proud Jewish papa that he's here?
Oh, I think it's great. This is my first trip to Israel. My wife was here 31 years ago, and she really enjoyed it, but we haven't been here together. And so we came a week before the swimming and have taken in a number of the sites and enjoyed everything we've done. It's been very good.
Okay, Mama Linda, how are you feeling? Your son is about to swim in his first final in the Maccabiah Games.
I am very, very excited. I've had the opportunity to watch him swim since he was 5.5 years old, and never in my wildest dreams did I think that one day I'd be here in Israel watching him compete for the United States at the Maccabiah Games.
So how do you feel? Because as you know, Jason decided against going to the World Championships in Rome in favor of the Maccabiah. That's a big decision.
Yes, it is, but I am thrilled that he made that choice because I had the opportunity to come to Israel and he never has been here. And I wanted him to explore his Jewish heritage. And this has just been a combination of bonding with other Jewish athletes, experiencing all that Israel has to offer, and then being able to swim at a competition like this as well. So it's the total package.
How's your trip been? You were here 31 years ago, is that right? So how's it been 31 years later?
Well, basically the only thing that's the same are all the antiquities, because otherwise I would not recognize any of the cities. I had been to Jerusalem, Netanya, Haifa, Tel Aviv, and everything has just grown so immensely that I can't believe that this is Israel.
How do you think Jason is enjoying his trip here?
Well, from what he has shared with us, I think it has been a very memorable trip for him. It's been exhausting, and normally before a swim competition, he rests for a couple weeks. He's had 2 days of rest, but I know that he's going to give everything that he has and do the absolute best he can under the circumstances.
Mitch Gaylord here with world champion, Olympic champion, and now Maccabiah champion Jason Lezak. How was it? Were you out there?
Oh, it was great. I mean, this is obviously my first time being in Israel, first time competing in the games, and I came in here expecting to swim fast, and I was just off my best time by a couple tenths. I'm real happy with the result.
Can you describe the race for us? I know at the 50-meter mark we were actually looking over the crowd of people, but we saw, wow, it's close. The guy's putting out effort here. How'd you feel at the 50-meter mark and then coming down the home stretch?
I felt pretty good. I was just trying to go out there and swim as fast as I can, saving as much energy as I can. And I came off that wall charging, and I faded a little bit at the end, but I could see him next to me breathing to my right-hand side. I knew I was in the lead, and I was just trying to do the best swim I could.
I think you're the only person who knew you were fading, because nobody else saw that. But second place, let's talk about it for a second. The Israeli athlete broke an Israeli record. Obviously, the level of competition is getting higher and higher out here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these Israelis, they just had a 50 backstroker break the Israeli record, I think maybe even a European record. So, I mean, they're definitely improving. They're swimming faster and faster each year. Two of the guys were in the semifinals at the Olympics last year, and I think they're just getting better and better.
Now, it's been widely reported all over the newspapers that you decided not to go to the World Championships in Rome and instead come to the Maccabiah Games. Briefly, what was the decision-making process for that?
Oh, it was a tough decision. I mean, I've been wanting to come to these games since 2001, but it always conflicted with the World Championships, and it does again this year. And, I've been to the World Championships so many times throughout my career, and I felt like this is the perfect opportunity. I'm 33 years old, and this might be the last chance for me to do this. When I was a kid, I went to the JCC Games twice in the U.S., and I knew it'd be a fun competition to come to Israel, but I only came here not only for the competition, for the whole thing. I mean, we did a nice pre-camp, and I was able to tour around, and I was able to meet the mayor, meet the president, get inducted into the Hall of Fame, and now the competition. So it's a whole, all those things combined is the reason why I came here.
It's always much more than just the sports when you come to Israel. And I know your family's here, your wife's here. What's it like having them sharing this experience with you?
It's been great. I mean, my wife's been with me the whole time, and we were able to do all the sites together and spend a lot of time together. And my parents just got here a little bit later, but it's been great. They're always supportive. They come to all my competitions when they can, and all three of them have been a great support for me.
Now, I think it's every athlete's dream to light the torch at any opening ceremonies. You were given that honor. Describe what that was like for you up there.
Oh, wow, that was a real special feeling because I've actually never been to the opening ceremonies at the Olympics before, so I was really looking forward to doing that. And I was able to march out with the U.S. team and to come out in front of all those fans, and you know the U.S. team's chanting USA and people are cheering for us is a great feeling. But then to get that honor to light the torch and finding out that I'm only the second non-Israeli to ever do it, you know, it's a great feeling. And you know, I just wanted to represent all the Jews and the whole world, not just the U.S. And I felt like it was a great honor.
Definitely made all of us proud watching you up there. 33 years old, you mentioned. This is different nowadays with swimmers being able to compete for a longer period of time. What's next for you, and do you think your age will affect how far you can go?
You know, I still think I have a few more years in me, so my goal is to go to the 2012 Games in London, and I'm still feeling strong. And as I get older, I learn about my body, and I learn how to train the best way I can for myself. And, you know, a lot of people get to the point and they continue doing the same thing, and they don't understand their body can't handle that anymore. So I make the adjustments that I need to make, and I think I can keep it going for another few years.
And we saw you in the warm-down pool there after the race. Obviously, you have 3 more races coming up, which we're going to cover. We look forward to them. And the warm down, describe briefly what that's all about, because usually we all know about warm-ups, but warm down?
I mean, warm down is pretty much after you swim a race, especially in a sprint race in 100 meters, you're going pretty much as hard as you can for that whole 47 seconds, and you build up a lot of lactic acid, and you just get in the pool to kind of clear that lactic acid out, so you come back the next day and hopefully you're not sore and you feel just as strong as you did the day before.
We wish you the best of luck in your upcoming races. I know I speak for all Jews around the world when we say thank you for being here and supporting the Maccabean movement, and you're making us all very proud. Good luck to you in the future.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
This just into the JLTV newsroom, Jason Lezak takes his 2nd gold medal of the Maccabiah Games. Lezak wins for the 4x100 freestyle relay team. I'm Brad Pomerance from Ramat Gan, Israel.
That wraps up day 2 of JLTV's exclusive coverage of the 19th Maccabiah Games from the State of Israel. I'm Mitch Gaylord. Thanks for watching.